So we just arrived here in General Santos and we smack bang in the middle of the Tuna Festival. Tuna Festival lasts for 4 days and we've arrived right in the middle of it. Now when you think about food that comes from General Santos, you think about tuna. General Santos exports so much good quality tuna to Japan, to the US, to Canada, and some parts of Europe as well. We'll then go to a place called Citramina. Apparently they go through 2,000 to 5,000 heads of tuna in one single day. We'll have a look at the butchery, the whole production line, how it then gets cut, packaged, and then exported. We'll then go to the port where we'll physically see all of the tuna come in off the boats, how it's graded, how people look at the quality of the meat, a lot of the bidding processes, all of that stuff. But when you think about food in Jansan, it's all tuna based, and they have utilized the tuna beautifully in all of their dishes. So we'll have a look at all of those dishes. But first, let's walk around the festival and see what it's all about. We then head to Sarangani Highlands Resort, which is a beautiful getaway from the busy city life and has an amazing view of the Sarangani Bay below. One of the many dishes that the chefs prepared for us was tuna kalderetta. The pre-cooked tuna was cut into large chunks and fried in garlic and ashweta oil. He then adds the tomato paste and cooks it for a few seconds just to get rid of that harsh tomato flavor. He then added pre-cooked potatoes and carrots to the pot with some chopped pineapple just to give it a little hint of sweetness. Red onions are then added with red bell peppers. About a cup or so of water is poured in just to help create the sauce for this dish. He then places the lid on and simmers it for a couple of minutes just to make sure that all the vegetables are cooked. Salt and pepper is then added with a generous amount of peanut sauce. I was actually surprised at this ingredient going into kalderetta, but it works really well in this dish. He then finishes it off with green peas and dinner is served.
And I thank you, my friend.
We headed to Mount Sabrina Garden Resort. This is a beautiful resort located up on a hill with a 360-degree view of the whole of Jansan. The dish they cooked us was one of their specialities here, sizzling tuna tendons. These tendons are located at the tail end of the tuna and was not as tough as what I expected it to be and has a really nice spicy note to it. A couple of teaspoons of oyster sauce is added with a generous splash of soy sauce. Oyster sauce then goes in with black pepper and brown sugar. A mixture of sliced red onions with green and red peppers is then added to finish this dish.
This morning on the wrong side of the bed, the hazy sunrise wraps up
We're in Sarangani, which is one of the biggest tuna processing plants in the Philippines, right? This place goes through roughly about 2,000 to 5,000 heads of tuna a day. Tunas are like 100 kilos up. You can imagine how much tuna they process, right, in one day. So we'll go through the steps. We'll explain to you from start to finish, from when it comes in, how it gets treated. But the first thing is, the hygiene is so very, very important. Every single room we go into, we have to dunk our feet in and wash our hands, right? So let's go have a look at the first step of this. So this is the first step of the tuna. It sort of comes in that window there, and then you can see it then gets probed to check for internal body temperature, and then it also gets checked for odors and anything that could go wrong with the tuna, right? Once they've established it, it then goes into these big sort of ice water baths over here. From then, it then gets moved onto this butchering table. You have a look, he sort of cuts a little bit of the head off, and then he's going to cut the tail off. So basically, when you have a tuna, the main parts that come from it is the fore loins, which is going to cut right down the spine of it now, then down the other side, then cut the two fins out, and now each fillet gets divided into two, and that's the two fillets on each side, which is the 4 fillets in total. And these guys have crazy knife skills, right? It's unbelievable. He's now taken the 4 loins off. The bones then go to a separate place. The 4 loins then come from here, go through that window. And the most astounding thing here is that how hygienic and how clean everything here really is. So each tuna that comes on here, it gets scrubbed. The next tuna that comes on, there's no cross-contamination between one tuna or the other. So let's go have a look at the loins. Okay, so this here now is where the 4 loins have come through that window over there and really come through here. So basically, this guy, he just trims up the loins a little bit, make it look nice and clean, and then he passes it to that guy over there, and he takes the skin off. He's just trimmed up a little bit of the black meat, which is very high in blood content. So they sort of cut it out because it doesn't look very nice, especially when you're doing sashimi grade tuna. You see how nice and blood red that meat is, right? Really sort of deep, intense. And the reason why tuna meat is red and the rest of the seafood is white, because of their diet. They eat a lot of algae, which is high in iron, and they also are one of the fastest swimming fish in the sea, which means they have to pump a lot more blood into their muscles, and that's why tuna meat is red and normal meat is white. Down here, it's all sort of cleaning, and then it goes into a room where they cut them up into different loins, which we'll go see now. Okay, so this is the huge chiller room, and this is from the loins. When it's come here, it's sort of kept overnight, and that's where the sort of color, it just leaves the meat to rest just for a little bit, and that'll help enhance the color of the tuna. So here you can see all of the loins that's come off. And the most amazing thing is, if there's 4 loins to one tuna, they have to keep those 4 loins together. They cannot separate. After about 12 hours overnight, it sort of rests. It then goes into another room where they sort of cut them into fillets and dice them up, and then we'll go have a look at that. Okay, so after the tuna loins have been resting in the wrap overnight, about 12 hours, just to sort of boost their color, they then sort of get cut into little fillets, and this gets done over here. So what they do is they cut them in half. You can see on the side of the tuna is a little flank. So they cut that off, and then they cut the loin in half to get 2 or 4 pieces out of the loin. And now it's sort of starting to look like the shape that we know as tuna sashimi. Okay, so from there, She then takes it, trims it up. That comes into sushi restaurants used for sashimi. So after they've cut the flank, then gets diced up. That also gets put into a bag, and that also gets exported. If you have a look here, there's a 7 and there's a T. And with those two, or the one letter and the one number, they can then sort of trace back where that tuna was caught, by what boat, by who. It all gets logged, and that is so, so important when it comes to doing food en masse like this. You need to be able to trace everything back and everything. I mean, this is unbelievable. This is now the frozen product, okay? And then all of this is export to the States, Canada, Japan, and some parts of Europe. I've showed you the quality of the tuna here in Jensen is unbelievable. He'll put it through, that little thing will then scan whether there's metal in there or not, and then it gets put into boxes. Okay, so this is the final stage. We've seen it from start to finish all the way down to here. For us to come in here and to film is a very, very rare thing. They don't allow many film crews to actually show the process, what happens. So this is like really, really special. The tuna in Jensen is unbelievably good. You can see it by the color, you can see by the size of it. Pretty much all over the world, it's a sign how good this tuna really is. Unbelievable. Okay, so this is the port here in Jensen. All of these boats here have brought the tuna in, really, really fresh. The boats bring in about 60 to 80 heads of tuna per boat. Right, and there's quite a few out here. And this is the hustle and the bustle of the tuna market here in Jensen. So when the tuna comes off the boat, they sort of get laid on carts all the way down here. You can see how fresh these tuna is. And again, to see whether fish is fresh, you have to look at their eyes. You see the eyes are super, super clear. Like this has probably come out of the water about an hour, 2 hours ago. Okay, so from here, you can see that's what's called yellowfin tuna, because the fins are yellow. So after this, I then go and get weighed. And that's how they sort of sell it. Obviously, once they start cutting the meat, it damages the value of it. So this is how they actually sell this tuna. Is they present this to the buyer, they leave it on top with the tags, with the color codes and everything. And then the buyer comes up, he has a look at the quality of the meat, and then he sort of writes everything down. This is the only way that the buyer knows what the quality of the meat is underneath the skin. So this is the cleaning process of the tuna. And the reason they clean tuna, they're the same as any other fish. Anything with high blood content in it spoils very, very quickly. So the high blood content is the intestines as well as the gills. The faster they can take that out, the longer the shelf life of the tuna. So they're cut behind the gills, open it up and take that red gills out of it. They cut it out, they take the intestines out, and then it gets like washed with a hose pipe. It then gets cleaned, because any blood that's in there really does go off very, very quickly. And this is a race against time when it comes to tuna, is that you want to do this as fast as possible so you can have the longest shelf life as possible. Okay, so once the fish has sort of been graded with that long needle, they take a sample out. The buyer then comes around and he sort of has a look at what he wants to buy. So once that's all done, it then gets cleaned up, and then from there sort of gets put in these huge containers full of ice, really, really cold, just to sort of keep the temperature down. From there, it gets shipped off to whoever bought it. Looking at the quality of the meat and also looking at the size, all of those things play a huge factor when you have to buy tuna. And that'll be kept in there until it gets delivered to the buyer. Now, that all the hustle and the bustle of the market's gone. You can see there's only a few tunas left. All of the sort of fishermen are cleaning up, getting ready for early tomorrow morning. You can still hear the parade in the background. We are right in the heart of the Gensan Tuna Festival. So I'm going to cook a dish. When I think of tuna, I sort of think of Japanese. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of take little Filipino flavors, Chinese, and sort of mix it into a Japanese type of dish. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make like an Asian coleslaw without mayonnaise, but I'm going to use a calamansi base. We then have to get a couple of cloves of garlic in there, and I want to sort of crush it into a puree almost. I don't want little bits of garlic inside. And this is going to be the base for our coleslaw. So it's not going to be mayonnaise based. It's going to be a nice calamansi, soy sauce, ginger base. So the sort of pureed garlic will then go inside, and then we'll get some ginger. We don't want to get too much ginger in there because ginger is like super strong in flavor, and it's just going to kill all of the subtle flavors inside. Now it's time to get the dressing made. So ginger, garlic, calamansi. Then we get some soy sauce. And that is now our base. Now, we don't want to make a dressing, we just want to make a little sauce. So we don't want it really thick. We're just going to drizzle in very slowly the sesame oil. And as we dress it in, we're going to stir. And that's just going to help to make it just a little bit thicker and also dilute the strong flavor of the calamansi. There, you can see the consistency has gone just a little bit thicker, and that's what we want. We don't want it thick like a dressing. Now that the snow peas have gone in, the white cabbage, carrots, red onion, everything's been sliced really thin. We're not going to cook this. We're going to let the acidity of the calamansi juice and the soy sauce and everything just sort of leave it in there, leave it to marinate, and it'll sort of pickle itself. And this is my version of the Asian coleslaw. So just this beautiful dressing, we'll just pour. Now, as soon as we put that dressing, I can smell the ginger, I can smell the garlic, and I can definitely smell the calamansi, which is quite a prominent thing in this dish. We're just going to turn it around. We don't want the vegetables to be soggy. We still want them to have a little bit of texture, and that is our Asian coleslaw pretty much done in about 5 minutes. Okay, so we'll leave that to the side, and the next thing we have to do is get the wasabi mayo going. So now that our wasabi mayo is done, our Asian coleslaw is softening just a little bit. Now it's time to get our tuna done. This is actually the tuna from Citramina. These are the loins that sort of been cut. You can see they're still just a little bit frozen, which is perfect for searing. Because when you're searing tuna, you just want the outside to be cooked. You want the insides still to be just a little bit raw. And because it's like semi-frozen, it's going to stop the heat from coming straight through into the tuna. And just sort of give it a good shake around. You could take honey and wasabi or anything and brush it on top, and that's going to help the sesame seeds to stick. But the tuna here in Gensan is so good. I don't want to mess around with honey and wasabi on the actual tuna.
Fever
As I sit down for the last meal for this season of Market to Master, I think about all the great and strange dishes that I've eaten on this fantastic trip, as well as the friendly people I have met along the way. The passion of the locals here when they talk about their food or produce is reflected in their dishes. The Filipino people can and should be proud of the food and ingredients that they produce. I know as a foreigner here, this trip has brought me a little closer to this beautiful country that I now call home.